Hey everybody, Old Shovelhead here. Some of you know me as Paul or Old and Slow. But at the end of the day, I'm Old Shovelhead on YouTube. Today I want to talk to you really quickly about my aquaponics system. I'm saying really quickly and I'm going to try to move through this as fast as I can. But I've got some notes here and I want to go over them. First thing I want to do is I want to talk about the aquaponics system itself and how I got here. I stumbled across a guy by the name of the Aquaponics God. Most people on YouTube and anybody that follows aquaponics know him as Brooklyn St. Michael, former military guy. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's got a lot of information, and you need to understand that he's really meant to help you understand how to do aquaponics or build aquaponics and support aquaponics on a commercial level. Myself, I'm a hobbyist. So with that in mind, what I do is a little bit different than what he does, but I really want to say thank you to Brooklyn St. Michael for taking the time to review my aquaponics system about, I don't know, 6 months ago. He gave me some advice and it's really helped my system out quite a bit. So first of all, shout out to the Aquaponics guy. Secondly, I'd like to shout out to JT Bear. I've been watching JT Bear for about 6 months now, and he's been very helpful. He's a practical aquaponics guy. He approaches it from a practical way, a way that you're going to use aquaponics at home. And while I'm mentioning his name, I'm going to bring up his food, because if I don't do it now, I'll forget to do it later. JT Bear introduced a food that he used made by Microlift. It's the summer staple food, which is made with fruits and greens. This food right here is completely non-GMO. If you're making aquaponics, growing aquaponics, doing aquaponics, and thinking about aquaponics, you understand what GMO is. It is a genetically manipulated organism. That means it's nothing made by God. It doesn't come from the ground. It's something man-made, and it's not good for you. It's just simply not good for you. So if you're growing vegetables using an aquaponics or even a hydroponics system, the last thing you want to do is introduce chemicals that are man-made. Why would you do that? You're pretty much defeating the whole purpose of aquaponics. So this is the food that I use. It's pelletized. You'll often see me feeding my fish using a little Tetramin flake bottle. The only thing that's in here is the food that comes out of here. They're pelletized, but none of the binders in this pelletization process are genetically manipulated organisms. It's still natural stuff. No, it's not eggs and breadcrumbs, but it isn't anything that the man made to put all the good stuff together. I wanted to bring that out right now because I think it's really important that we understand that with aquaponics, it's as important to feed your fish something that you would feed yourself. I've raised piranha and I've raised community tanks, from goldfish to angelfish to absolutely stunning plecostomus that have grown 8 to 10 inches. And it's all been done by feeding them natural food. Remember, what you put in that's natural comes out that's natural. So I get that out of the way. And then finally, the last guy that I want to shout out to is Larry Affey. I've been trying to get some traction with YouTube and my aquaponics system since Father's Day 2017. I've increased no subscribers. I have a minimal amount of views. And YouTube has determined that I'm just not interesting enough to be one of their affiliates. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Use a little bit of the fish food. Tastes okay. But Larry Affey made a comment when I switched from just exclusively 6500K CFL bulbs to 6500K fluorescent tubes. And I've had a big concern that the addition to all the extra light was going to create a bacteria buildup in my fish tank. No, this isn't a fish tank, it's a tote. This wood band right here just keeps the tank from flexing outward because this thing isn't designed to support 27 gallons of water or 23 or even 20. So that's all this does, it just keeps the thing from flexing. But I was concerned about a buildup of bacteria or algae because I know that the lighting that I'm using at 6500 Kelvin is just like the sun, and it's going to create a bacteria buildup. And that is not healthy in an aquaponics system. So I've thrown a towel over it, and just simply for the purposes of this video, geez, I moved my camera, I hope I didn't mess everything up there. For the purposes of this video, I removed my towel from the top of the tank. But what I want to show you real quickly here, this is a dry towel. It's never been wet since I've used it. But you can see there's a bit of a green that's built up on here. And really, that's bacteria. It's bacteria just simply from the normal moisture that's in the air and these 6500K bulbs. That in and of itself is proof that that particular Kelvin rating is conducive to growth. So, when I made a comment about changing my lights, the gentleman Larry Athy said that he put a piece of foil around his fish container and that helped eliminate the bacteria growth. That's not the point of my shout out. The point of my shout out is that I visited his website when he made a comment. And he showed a small indoor hobby style aquaponics system and he commented about lighting. Now I've been watching aquaponics videos for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months now. And there's very little talk about what kind of lighting to use for aquaponics. Well, in Larry Athy's video that I watched, he mentioned that he used 6500K lighting. Great, I'm doing the same thing. There's a little more piece of food. I haven't had dinner yet. But he said, if you have a vegetable that you're trying to produce that needs flowers or produces flowers for it to produce its vegetables or fruit, in the case of tomatoes, you have to use a 3000 or a 2700 Kelvin rating bulb. Well, no one had mentioned that before. And if you take the time to look at my previous videos, you'll notice that I was growing cucumbers and tomatoes, but they never flowered. Or they would flower and the flowers would die right away. I hadn't the foggiest idea why this was happening, and I just presumed that it was some sort of deficiency that I had in my system. That was at the time that I submitted my video of my system to Brooklyn St. Michael, the aquaponics god, also known as and found on YouTube at the School of Aquaponics. At that time, this container sat down here, which is now a sump tank. And he suggested that I add a sump tank to my system. So what I did was I moved my fish tank up top here and then added another tank container just like the one I'm using here, but as a sump tank. That has had a tremendous impact on my aquaponics system. So since I'm mentioning system, I want to move into that next. This is a hobby system. There's no intent whatsoever for me to go commercial with what you see sitting behind me. It's a repurposed computer desk with a couple of pieces of 1x6 that I screwed into the back of it and some metal that I welded together to create some brackets to hang some lights from. This is just repurposed equipment that I have around the house. I used to raise piranha, and what I learned with piranha and the plants that I kept in my piranha tank was that not only was the proper feeding and cleaning important, but water changes are important. Now, in a lot of commercial size aquaponics systems, they say you don't need to do water changes. And maybe that's true, but in my experience, when it comes to having fish involved in a system, you gotta do water changes. Even if you're using a solid lift overflow, which is what I use in my aquaponics system, and it works really simply. Water flows in from there, creates a bit of a current, and it gets picked up here at the bottom, which lifts the waste out and across and into the grow bed. That fish waste, that's what we want. That fish waste is what fertilizes all your vegetables. And they clean that fish waste out of the water. It flows through your grow bed. In my case, I'm using expanded clay pellets. And then it drains down into your sump tank. It drains into your sump tank with a cleaner or cleaned water. And yeah, there's going to be some solid waste that doesn't get picked up, and you're going to have to remove that from the system. If you get into a more elaborate system, there are ways to remove that solid waste, but in a home hobbyist system, it's just not going to happen. At least not in a footprint that's about 4 foot by 6 foot. So remember, if you're going to get involved in aquaponics and you're going to do it as a home hobbyist, be prepared to make water changes or do water changes. It's the best way to keep your fish healthy. I can tell you, if I go 3 weeks without doing a water change, I'm going to lose a fish. I lost a fish last week because I hadn't done a water change for 2 weeks. Don't forget, you're going to have to change the water. How many of you can you shove in a closet that has no fresh air inlet and expect to live any type of quality lifestyle on air that a bunch of you are breathing in and out? It's not going to happen. And you understand that fish do get their oxygen from the water. If there's no oxygen in the water, they're not going to be healthy. If they're not healthy, you're going to lose fish. You're not going to have a happy environment. You're not going to produce the kind of solid and beneficial waste that the system here needs. And that's, let's face it, that's what we're doing. We're growing vegetables. We're not keeping fish. So I want to bring that up to everyone right now. If you're doing a small system, be prepared to drain the solid waste that's not being used out of your sump tank, and be prepared to do a water change once a week. It's just that simple. Lighting. I mentioned lighting. 6500K or Kelvin. Take a minute and do a little YouTube, Google, internet, encyclopedia if you're my age, research, and understand what the Kelvin rating is. The sunlight has a full spectrum, and they measure that spectrum in Kelvin or Kelvin ratings. The lower the rating and a higher rating. The lower rating seems to propagate flowering. The higher rating doesn't. And some plants, such as romaine lettuce, they don't flower, so they don't really need that lower Kelvin rating light. Cucumbers, on the other hand, do flower. And, well, look, here's some flowers here, and some flowers there. And there's more flowers underneath here. The first time I ran this system, I ran it strictly with 6500K, and I got flowers from my cucumber, which died the same day. In the morning I'd get up, I'd feed my fish, I'd have little flowers on the cucumbers. When I came home at night, all the flowers were dead. And the foggiest idea. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't until I watched someone that commented on one of my videos about his system, and then watching what his videos had shown did I learn that, yeah, I really need different Kelvin rating bulbs in order to get the kind of growth that I want out of a varied type of crop. If you're just growing romaine lettuce, you don't need to worry about it. But if you're a hobbyist and you're not just doing microgreens, but you want some tomatoes and some cucumbers and some lettuce, which is generally the vegetables most of us buy at the store, then yeah, you're gonna have to have some varied lighting. And you can see these guys are real white. These guys are real white, but these guys are kind of yellowish. These are yellowish. This is a 2700K bulb. This is a 6500K bulb. It's really white. It's a little more yellow. If the sun was just 1 Kelvin rating, everything would look the same. So bear that in mind. Be prepared to have different variances in the lighting that you use. Stocking densities, or how many fish do I need? Well, there's all kinds of calculators available on the internet. Myself, I've got about 20 calico and darter goldfish. I've had as many as 30 in there. And I know from experience with raising fish, you can only have so many fish in so many gallons of water. And there's a lot of things that you can read where people say 1 fish per gallon or 1 fish per this much size, a volume of this, a volume of that. At the end of the day, as many fish as you can keep in here, keep them safe, keep them healthy, and keep them fed is going to be your ideal amount of fish or your ideal stocking density. Yes, there are formulas for it, but this is gardening, and so like any type of gardening, there's going to be some trial and error, and be prepared for that. Your grow bed size, you know, there's a whole lot of controversy between or about how deep you need to be able to have your grow beds. Some people say a foot's the perfect height. I've read where other people seem to think 6 inches is the perfect height. I think until you have a really great understanding about how deep your root systems grow with the type of vegetables that you're growing, you're never really going to know. This is a piece of romaine here that was just, it was just screaming at me. It's crunchy, it's tasty. There's no final sour or final bitter flavor. And it doesn't taste like fish poop any more than the vegetables you buy in the grocery store taste like cow poop. That's not what happens here. Bear that in mind. What kind of media can you use in a tank like this, in an aquaponics system? Like I said myself, I use expanded clay pellets. Get a couple of them here for you to look at. They kind of look like rocks, but they've got a lot of holes in them. They've got a lot of places where seeds can hide. And that's what you need, because that's what happens in dirt. Seeds hide in the dirt. They hold moisture really well. Expanded clay pellets, it's kind of hard to say. Try saying it 3 times fast. Expanded clay pellets are really, really great. They can be a little expensive. You generally have to find them at your local grow store, but it's not a problem. I suggest using them. I suggest cleaning them. The great thing about expanded clay pellets is they really don't have a shelf life. They're going to last over and over and over. So when you have a grow bed like this, and let's say you're growing several different types of vegetables, some that are going to mature in 30 to 75 days, some that maybe need 90 to 120 days to mature. You can use this over and over and over again. And if you decide that the crop's done, you can rinse them clean and use them again. It's fantastic. The most important thing I want to explain to you about this when it comes to finding some success, which is, well, honey, let's have a salad tonight. Wow, that lettuce was great. Keep your system flexible. Be able to add another grow bed. The plumbing that you use here is really simple. You have a really simple bulkhead that goes at the bottom of your grow bed. You can attach a 1/2 inch up to 1.5 inch reducer. I always have a hard time saying reducer because if I'm starting with a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch bulkhead, I don't consider reducing it, but that's what it's called. Gosh, am I hungry. So make sure your system is flexible. Having a repurposed desk like I did here required me to drill a hole for the drain bulkhead. And as I've been talking, you're hearing a drain because I use a flood and drain system with a bell siphon. That's a whole nother video, and I'll do a video on it. But be prepared to be flexible. Be prepared to move your tank, your grow bed. Be prepared to string up some rope so you've got a place for your cucumbers to grab onto. Because cucumbers like to grow and they're vines. So if your grow bed's small like this, they have to go somewhere. Give the ability to grow up. Give your lights the ability to be raised so you can raise your lighting as your plants grow. When I first started this system, I had my 6500K fluorescent tubes here. They were down this low. But over the course of a month, I had growth that occurred so quickly, I had to raise it up to give them space and to allow for the lighting to cover the whole area. So these are some of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and I've been wanting to talk about with my aquaponics experiment. I'm going to go ahead and grab the camera right now and try to get some close-ups of the bed and of my fish. I'm not really counting on any great video out of it. I'm even going to feed my fish a little bit so you can see what the guys look like when it comes time to eat. They've been fed already tonight, but they always want to eat. So remember that. Don't overfeed your fish. You overfeed your fish, you're going to create an ammonia level spike that the nitrates in the system just simply cannot process. So don't overfeed. A little in the morning, a little at night, it's all you need. They're always going to look hungry. But it's okay. They're not going to starve. You can actually let these fish go for 3 or 4 days without feeding them. They're still going to produce waste. It's still going to provide waste to be processed into food or into the correct chemical makeup that your fish or your vegetables need. But don't forget to feed the fish. At least every couple days. So let's do a quick walk around here. This is the grow bed. Whoop, there we go. Sorry about that.